All right, I got to put my glasses on for this one because we are going to get serious. And for years, I want to share with you that I was doing it wrong. Not wrong in a way that it fails, wrong in a way that it works just well enough, but you kind of stay stuck. You see, I was building businesses using common language such as how-tos, other people's framework, other people's systems, other people's language. And the whole time I thought I was building something. What I was actually doing, though, was performing someone else's business just in my name. And the moment that I stopped, everything changed. And today, I want to show you exactly what that shift looks like. And there's one question, just one question, that I'm going to share with you that exposes everything. I'll give you that question before we end this video today. Here's what the how-to trap looks like from the inside. You find someone's resume that you admire. Maybe it's a mentor, a certification program, coach you paid a lot of money to, and they give you a framework. They give you the steps. They give you the step-by-step process on how to, and you implement it. And it works, kind of. You get some results, you get some clients, you build some revenue, but something feels off. The business functions, but it doesn't feel like yours. And here's the thing, the language you use doesn't quite fit the way that you think. And see, the offer looks right, but you hesitate to explain it. And you can't figure out why, because you use that person's how-to exactly. I lived this for years, having built 3 franchise real estate businesses, having built a SaaS business inside of a recruiting methodology that wasn't born from me. It was, quite frankly, built from other people's best practices. And everything looked successful from the outside. But here's what I know now that I didn't know then. I wasn't building my business. I was performing someone else's business well enough to simply get paid for it. And I'm going to share with you the difference between a how-to business and a how-you business. I'm going to break it down completely. But first, I need to show you why how-tos feel so safe, because that's the part that no one talks about. So here's why the how-to approach is so seductive. It simply removes the scariest part of building. And what is that? That part of building that you actually have to trust yourself. You see, when you build inside of someone else's business, it actually gives you a place to hide, meaning that if it doesn't work, the framework is wrong. And if it does work, guess what? The framework gets the credit. What I found is that the how-to approach, it kind of gave me a cover. And I defined that cover as truly safety. But here's what I truly know now, looking back on that time, is that really wasn't safety. It was what I like to call borrowed authority. And borrowed authority definitely has a ceiling. I hit my head on it quite a bit. And how did I know that? How did I know that I was hitting a ceiling? Is because there is a point in time where, let's just say, the client who's in front of you will ask a question that the framework doesn't actually support. And you don't have an answer that is yours. That's a problem. And that's the moment when you start to feel it. And what do you feel? I'll tell you what I felt. I felt that gap between the business that I was building that wasn't mine and the business that I wanted to build, which was going to actually be mine. I remember the exact moment I felt that gap. It happened a few times. And I was inside of someone else's coaching model. I had paid for it. I was implementing it. I was getting results from it. And I sat down and I asked myself one day that if someone sat down and took away the framework, took away the methodology approach, the borrowed vocabulary that I was using, what would I actually say? And would I even have an answer? Because you see, I had never asked myself that question before. And when I sat there, I had the realization that the silence that I was experiencing was truly the most important signal that I had received in years. I didn't have the answer. I want you to stay with me here, because what I found when I finally had the answer to that is what changed everything. And I can almost guarantee you it's not what you expect. Now let's talk about the shift from how to how you, and how that is not about throwing away everything that you've already learned. It's simply about running it through a different filter. Instead of asking, what does the framework say that I'm supposed to do here? You have to start asking, how did I actually do this? And that's key. That is a big breakthrough when you can understand that you're not following the framework anymore, and yet you are trying to establish, how would I do this? Not how the framework says it was supposed to be done. How did I do it? What was my actual path? And what did I figure out that truly was not borrowed and that maybe no one had even taught me. I had to learn it myself. I remember writing this down in one of my journals, and it went like this. What do I know because I have lived it, not because I had read it or it was coached to me? Because there's something to having lived authority. I knew that it couldn't be borrowed and it definitely could not be replicated. And when I learned that I needed to tell my exact story, not the polished version, not the framework shaped version, the true story, the actual story, I realized that the person listening felt something completely different. And here was a key thing that I had to learn. They didn't feel like they were being sold a methodology. They were actually talking to me in a human-to-human way because I actually lived the authority that I was sharing. And that feeling, I have learned, is the only feeling that actually converts. Now, the how you business starts with 4 questions. And I had to develop these, and these are not easy questions. But what I realized was they are the right questions you should be asking. Question number 1, what did I actually build? Not someone else's system, but what were my own terms? Number 2, what do I know that I've never heard someone say exactly the way that I say it? Number 3, what would I tell someone to do exactly if there was no framework to hide behind? And number 4, what's the one belief that I hold about the people that I serve that I've never said out loud? What I realized was those 4 questions. Pause this right now. Go listen to those 4 again. Because here's what I found. That's where your business actually lives. And the single question that I promised you at the start of this podcast, the one that exposed everything that I was doing wrong, I'll give it to you right now. Because this next part is where high achievers will either lean in or lean away. I want you to lean in right now. And here's that question. If someone took away the framework's name, every methodology title, and every borrowed vocabulary word, what would I say instead? Most high achievers that I ask that question to, they go really quiet. Not because they don't have an answer, but because they've never given themselves permission enough to trust that their answer is enough. You see, they've spent so long learning how to do it right, how to say it right, how to position it right, how to package it in a way that the market expects, that they've lost track of what they would actually say if all of that fell away. And here's what I want you to know. What's underneath all of that borrowed language? That there's not a less credible version of yourself. Gosh, I had to learn this the hard way. That is the most credible version of yourself. Because why? Because it's the only version that's actually real. And real is the only thing that builds a business that is actually yours and people trust. So stop building someone else's business. Not because their business is wrong, but because yours is simply there waiting. And it's been waiting there. I'll share this with you. It's been waiting there. And this is something that now from the outside looking in that I had to realize it's been waiting there the whole time that I was performing someone else's version of my success. So here's what I want you to do. If you felt that this landed, if you felt any recognition of any part that I said, I want you to drop the word borrowed in the comments. Not for engagement, but simply because naming it is the first step in releasing it. And then give me a subscribe because this is a much longer conversation that I'm having about what it means to actually build something that is yours. And there's a lot more coming. And I want you to remember this. The how-to got you there. The how you actually gets you to where you want to go. See you on the next one.